Listen up, Rangers, welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today I'll be customizing this NECA Godzilla 2014, which you don't see this guy very often anymore. Well, what makes this guy unique is it's just the largest NECA Godzilla figure that they put out. Also, it has a sound box, which I'm trying to remember where on the tail here. Ooh, which this one still works. Cool. And what we're going to be doing is making him look more like the 2021. So the bulk of this is primarily just going to be getting the spines onto this guy and then touching up some paint, calling it a day. Because I'll have to do a little bit of sculpting in order to make some of the stuff look correct. But oh yeah, and also we gotta get his feet on here. I think that was the other prerequisite, which, you know, kind of looking at him, there isn't that big of a difference. It's mainly the toenails are a little bit longer, I'm noticing. Because I know he has larger feet, but I'm just trying to look at this and see how I'm going to get that to work. Well, we'll get there when we get there. For the most part, I'm just going to be removing this off anyways. Which is just hooked on a seal here. So we'll see if I can pop it off. Because what I think I'm going to do first is I'm just going to unscrew this guy and tear him apart. And I think that'll make, hopefully, if these spines aren't glued in, making the cutting a lot easier than trying to remove them from here. So we're going to start with that. And then we'll move on. Well, actually, I guess we can start with this. Real quick, I'm just going to be removing the old spines off of him. Looking at it, the tail section I'm pretty much going to leave alone. That and because of the electronic gimmicks and what have you there anyways. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But he does have more spines coming along back here anyways. Down to the tip here. So I'm probably going to keep right at the head section here. And then we'll remove everything else, and then we'll see where we're at from there. And then this, I think you wanted me to leave alone. I'll have to get back with them, but if I do any customizing to make them look more like it, I'm probably just going to round off the tip here. It'll still be about the same length, but I would probably just round this section off and just remove the top part here. Then try to maybe convert one of these sections, because the only other option would be to take some epoxy putty and just make a new tip. But I think he wants me to leave that alone, so we'll probably just leave that alone. But if you want to remove the spines, first you're going to need a good X-Acto blade. For this, because this is all pretty well soft rubber. Looking at this, I'm kind of like, I wonder if I could just be daring, and if there was a way I could just cleanly take out the part and just connect them back together. It'd be less sculpting if I did that. Okay, actually, you know what? We'll a lot of this stuff I tend to do on the fly. We're gonna start with this because if I don't have to cut off all the spines, I think that actually make my life easier. So first and foremost, I need a Phillips. All right, we got them torn apart. Just have to unscrew the sides. Came apart fairly simply. Looking at it, I'm probably still better off just cutting off the parts because no matter what I'm going to do a bunch of shaving and cutting, and I would rather maybe spend a little bit more time sculpting around the spines than trying to Dremel all of this out right around here, because I was kind of thinking I could maybe try to just remove all of this and then this would just kind of rest inside of it. But looking at it, I think it's probably just going to be easier, because even if I go that route, I'm still going to have to sculpt all along the sides. And if I cut it, I might not have to do as much sculpting anyways. That, and I don't know how well this thing's going to hold up the posing if I remove that much plastic off of it, because I'm not sure exactly where all the ball joints sit. And this kind of just mitigates some of that issue. So we're going to cut. So, like I was going to do originally, what you do, I'll show you a couple of them, but you take a hair dryer, we're going to heat up the section we want to cut. Actually, kind of looking at this, think this is all one big unit, but let's see. Well, let's start by removing all the little sections, and then we'll get to the big parts. You can kind of see after you heat it up, more or less cuts like butter. Bigger sections you might have a bit of a hard time with, but always just one safe thing. Just make sure you cut away from yourself. And try not to cut into the figure. There we go. To me it looks like I could almost rip that out, but don't mind me, just trying to rip this thing out here. I need more leverage. Oh, there we go. One down. Realize I can just pull this out, so I'm gonna make it a little easier trying to inset the top over it. Oh, so close. There we go. Hopefully I can get a little bit of a cleaner, a flat lay on top of it then. Because what I'd like to do is just remove this right here and just right on top of it. And same with this part here, as close as I could. Because that'll just make keeping the detailing more consistent anyways. Alright, well anyways, let's chop this stuff off, because this part I won't be able to do that same thing with. Alright, so I didn't really like the idea, so after ripping out the sections, I ended up just cutting them down and started filling in some of the holes. I'm just going to go back through and just cover them with epoxy. So, I got the... these were the original ones that were on here. These are the new ones. I'm going to be doing... same thing with these. So, this will be this side. I do believe, yes. And then this would be this side. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to cut these off into smaller sections. I'll try to do this as straight a shot as I can. So now I got 3 sections here. Kind of figure out where I'm going to be setting them. So kind of like that. Ideally I want to try to cover up some of the spots that I cut up. So this guy's definitely going there. What I'm going to do is take my glue, add to the bottom of this. Get it, hold it in place for a few seconds until the glue's had enough time to kind of hold. Same thing with the next one. Add a bit of glue. Plus I'll be reinforcing this with some epoxy putty, so it doesn't have to be super pretty right now, the placement of stuff. Alright. Spray out some accelerant, just dry a little faster. You guys can start to kind of see the placement. And this guy did the same thing to the other side. Give it a few seconds to dry. And then we have our... Stop hitting the soundboard. Top spikes are all done. So next, chop off these guys. I primarily need... I think just the 2 big ones. Mainly. And then the 2 on the sides here to add to here. And then the rest of this should be good to just be the original tail. I do gotta cleave off a little bit more plastic off of here. Alright, so we got all his plates on. Looking pretty snazzy. You might see there's a hammer on the table. And that's because I kinda had to take the old figure outside. I had to get the feet off. The one kinda just like, I ripped it off just kind of with my arms. This one required a little bit more finesse. And by finesse, I mean I beat the crap out of it with a hammer. The legate, I should say, so that I could free the feet. So I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to get this to work. I could go what I did with the con route and just remove all the plastic around it to fit inside of here to keep the joint, glue this in, and then this will just be the new foot. He'll be slightly shorter if I do that, but I think that's the only way I'm really getting around that. I'm going to heat this up and pop this off, and then we'll try to go from there. Alright, so I've already done a little bit of work here where I got the toes chopped off of the Jakks Pacific. So what I'm just doing now is removing the same toes off of this guy, and then we're going to kind of just superimpose this over top of that. And then do some sculpting, whatever I need to do. So I'm just taking my sanding disc from my Dremel and just trying to remove this. Also, as you may see, I'm wearing protection and I got a mask on because there's a lot of stuff flying off of this. And I don't want it in my mouth or in my eyeballs. Also, don't be afraid to mess up a little bit on this because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to be resculpting all this foot area. So I don't need to be super precise. Though I am going to see if I can just kind of cut through the rest of this with this knife. Alright, so I can pretty much get that to work. It would probably need to be more like this to make sense. I actually think I got that pretty well on my first go. Because I'm going to have to add some rods and I'm going to have to extend some putty over top of this anyways. Like I might have to sand in a little bit on this side just to kind of round it out though. Because I would like this a little bit more inset, but I think for the initial chop off, that's pretty solid. So, same thing with the stove. Also, if you attempt to do this, just make sure not to touch some of the bits of the plastic, because while this is sanding it, it's melting the plastic, so this gets really hot. As you can see, there's some stretchy bits. It cools off really quick though. On a high note. And yeah, we're going to have to Dremel a little bit more off. So what I'm going to do, switch to my sanding bit and slowly just start removing some of the plastic around here, just try to get the fit a little better. Because ideally when I go to glue this guy down, I'm going to have him pretty flat-footed, so then I know this will be in the right position. Alright, so next I drilled a couple of little holes on the back here using my little Dremel. What I'm doing here is I'm just going to be making some supports, so when I go to glue it in, there's just some added stability here. So between the rod, the glue, and the epoxy putty, the foot should stay on pretty well. There shouldn't be really any give for flexing. At least hopefully anyways. Fun part is trying to figure out where the supports are going to go into, because I got to make sure that it stays pretty level. Real quick, I got to glue these rods into the hole just to make sure they don't pop out on me, but just going to spray some accelerant on it, especially when trying to glue metal pieces in. Accelerant's super nice because otherwise it takes freaking ever to cure on it. Make sure the feet are fairly flat. And then that's essentially how that one's going to go in. This one's going to go in like that. So now I can take a pen, if I got one sitting around anyways. So, it might be hard to see, but I got my little pile of holes. So now I just need to drill. Ideally not going into the ball joint. Good, good. Problem is, rods are a little too big. So I gotta snip them down. Good, make sure it lines up pretty well. Seems like we're in business. So I can start trying to glue these guys all in. It's not going to look pretty right now, but that's to be expected. Because like I mentioned, we're going to sculpting all this. This one's got a little bit more of a gap, but again, that'll be fine because we got the rods and we're going to be cramming that all in with epoxy putty anyways. So it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I think I got a picture just to make sure he thinks it looks alright. But that's pretty stable. That's pretty hard. So next, we doing all the fun epoxy stuff. Alright, so I got some epoxy putty here. I'd recommend wearing gloves, but I was already working on stuff earlier. And it decided to rip. So I'm just doing this barehanded. Ow, my knuckles just cracked. That was my workout stuff for a few minutes, so everything's kind of starting to cure. So I gotta try to be quick about this, but I'm just gonna start filling in the gaps with some epoxy putty. Again, just make sure everything is all nicely packed, crammed in between the toes. Because again, this will add some stability to the foot, so you don't have to worry about it breaking off. Because say if you just try to fill it, like just sculpt around your little gaps here, all you're gonna do is just cause some stress eventually. Especially if you apply too much pressure downward with the feet. Then you just snap them off and you'll be super sad because you spent all that time working on it. You get to redo it all. I don't wanna. So I'm gonna try to get as much of this as I can in these crevices. Alright, kind of looks like we're at the part where I could probably just start trying to sculpt everything.
Here because Steve forgot to record a going over it part for his video, so I'm here to give my thoughts on it. I'll get it out of the way right away. I think it looks amazing. You can see it in front of you. It looks amazing. I got this idea because I saw his other video where he took Bandai vinyl and a NECA Godzilla to make a NECA 2000 Godzilla. I was like, I have this Jakks Pacific Godzilla and this NECA Godzilla. I wonder if he could do the same thing. And lo and behold, he can. Let's get a nice close look here at these plates. Which, funny enough, look more detailed than the original NECA. These kind of look like real smooth and rubbery. They don't really match detail-wise. So these actually look more detailed, even though they came off a cheaper figure. And as good as the plates are, I'm actually the most impressed with the feet. Because he had to, like, chop half a foot off and, you know, graft it onto these feet. Although I am nervous I'm going to forget one day and set him down too hard. But it should hold well together pretty well. He put pins and stuff in it. It's a neat little process. The articulation doesn't seem hampered any by the bigger plates. I'm sure I could make it hamper, but I ain't going to go... Yeah, there's a little bit of... right there if I really wanted to be a jerk about it. Now, if any of the new Godzillas, like the ones for Godzilla vs. Kong, had the splayed hands, you know, where he's clawing, I would have bought one of those and sent that with it so I could get hands like that. But unfortunately, none of them did, so he's going to keep his old hands. If I have one regret, it's I wish I had just gone ahead and told him to Spitfire it, you know, and paint him blue. I think it would have looked really neat in this on a larger figure. Live and learn. Originally, I bought a second one because I was going to have it just Spitfired. So it'd look like him Spitfired until I saw that video. And I was like, hey, I could have a giant NECA 2019? Yeah, 2019 Godzilla. Alright, as far as scale goes, I don't have very many figures that would scale with him. Like I have the Playmates Mecha Godzilla, which scales pretty decently. I think Mecha Godzilla is should be a little bigger, but it still looks pretty good next to him. And besides him, here he is next to an Imperial Godzilla. After seeing what an amazing job he did on this figure, it's giving me ideas of other figures I should have updated. Like maybe the Jakks Pacific giant jumbo Godzilla. Yeah, that's the ticket. Let them know down in the comments what Godzilla you hope I commission them to fix up next. And help them defeat those kaiju by hitting that like button, subscribing, and becoming a Ranger today. They also got Instagram, Patreon, Pinterest? Yeah, whatever the heck that site is. And Facebook. If you guys would like to keep up to date with their channel and donate, they would greatly appreciate it. And they will see you in the next video.